Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
We record so far ahead of time, right, that anything we talk about AI is way out of date by the time. Like, I was watching...
No, it's kind of funny, actually. I like that.
I was watching Lex Friedman podcast, where he's talking to one of the leading experts on AI. And he's the guy that released the open letter saying we need to slow down AI.
Yeah.
And he releases the podcast 2 weeks after he films it, basically. Because he has to edit it, and he has other guests lined up and all that. And it's super out of date by then. And this is the leading expert saying, yeah, it'd be neat if we could do this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, those are already old hat.
Yeah.
But the language... So about a month ago, at the time of recording, a thing called Alpaca was released, or Llama. I think it was Llama. And what they did was they said, what if we optimized... Essentially, this is what they did. What if we made an optimized version of a GPT model?
Yeah.
So GPT models, I don't know how big they are. I think they're several terabytes. And they take like 32, I think minimum of 16 to 32 gigabytes of virtual RAM to run.
Yeah.
So they're very expensive, very large. So the Llama model and the various Llama models and Alpaca models, they take about 5 to 10 gigabytes of space.
That's pretty good.
And they take about 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I can run it on my computer just fine.
Oh.
I have 4 of them on my computer right now, and I've been playing around with them, seeing which one I like better, and trying them out, and it's really cool.
The thing I didn't know, just software-wise, because you say you have 4 of them, Auto GPT.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is, because there's so many AI tools online now, basically what it does is it just organizes them to work together, so it will go to them and use them.
Yeah.
I didn't quite realize it was also doing that.
That's what I was talking about with Hugging Face, where they have this massive repository of all these different AI models, and it says, I need that one, and I need that one, and I need that one. But the thing is, it's choosing which ones it gets.
Yeah.
And the Lotus Eaters actually did a video today.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I watched that. And it's very interesting. I might try to see... I don't know exactly how it works for when it comes to like paying for stuff with it, but I want to see if I can get it to book me flights. Because I am planning to travel, and basically like just get me flights from here to here.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't. I mean, yeah, you might have to pay for the flights themselves. Yeah. Or even if it can do them. What did I say? Themselves. Anyways, even if it can do it for you, you still might want to retain that control.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think all you would need is a GPT account, and then you give that your access key. And I haven't tried it because I don't have a GPT account, and I don't want one because it requires your phone number and your email, and I don't want...
I already have a GPT account.
Yeah. So you could probably set one up.
Yeah.
I saw a video game. Since you have a GPT account, maybe we can play it after even. I don't know. But it's on...
Well, I have it linked to my Google account with... like just signing into ChatGPT, so I don't know if that's a full account.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
It gives you a key, I think, that you can use.
All right.
I'm not entirely sure how it all works, but there's a game that was released on itch recently, which is called, I think it's called GPT Yandere Sim, and I think the goal is to outwit like an AI trying to kill you or something that loves you, and it seems kind of cool.
On the video game front, like, it made Flappy Bird by a guy just describing Flappy Bird to it.
Yeah.
And that's the AutoGPT. He just described it to it. And that's crazy. And like
I could make that game in like an hour.
Yeah, but he described it to it. So if I just describe what we talked about last time, my work to it.
Yeah, well, no, I think you could potentially. I really think you could.
Yeah.
It might be worth playing around with. You'd have to tell it what you wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And then, ideally, it would ask you when it needed more information, and you could provide that.
I think one of the funniest things that came out of that podcast, though, today was where Dan's talking about... So there was all these emerging jobs appearing, which is a prompt technician. It's like, you're really good at writing prompts. Well, guess what? The AI is better than you at writing the prompts. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, this job's like, oh, I'm a prompt technician. I'm going to be... And then the job's just gone in less than a month.
But there's still the app. So right now, Dan of the Lotus Eaters has Auto GPT set up. He knows how to use it. He's not a coding guy at all, but he knows how to use this thing. And now the sky's the limit basically for him, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, there is still a limit there, which is his own creativity for what he wants to automate and simplify in his life.
Exactly, that's my problem. Like, I want to play with this thing, but it's like, what on earth do I do?
And there's so many things you can do. Like right now, I've been using these language learning models to expand my tabletop role-playing game. I've been saying, hey, here's a list of things, make me more.
I wonder if this is something you work into, I just looked at, because installing mods is like an absolute ball ache. I wonder if you could get to optimize like putting together mod lists for you that work together for games.
I don't think so. Maybe. But it would have to be running and trying it itself potentially. But most mod lists, nobody knows the correct order. And how we have things like Rimpi and Loot is an entire community of people who have been testing this thing saying, okay, this is what works. You have to put this above this. You have to put this above this.
However, you can show these GDP, the language models, you can show them someone's coding and it can just fix it.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have access to all mods because mods are often made in creation kits themselves, so they're still not open. Now there is an aspect to it. For example, if someone, let's take my Age of Wonders mods, right?
Yeah.
If someone said to me, okay, what happens with the Empire mod and your Wrong Kind of Balance mod?
Yeah.
Which one should go first? Or which one should have a priority? And I'd say my mod should have priority because it changes a huge amount of things, and if you want it to touch those things, then you want it to have priority to overwrite Empire mod where it changes things. And so I could put on a list load below Empire mod, right?
Yeah.
And you see this a lot on Skyrim mods where they say load below this mod, load below this mod. So what this AI could do is it could look at the description of every mod, and then it could create a web and say, okay, this is the order of every single mod.
Yeah.
And that's what Loot and Rimpi already do. So it won't work for Skyrim or for RimWorld, but for a game that doesn't have this, it could tell you how to do this.
And I suppose what you could do, I don't know, like, can you give them complete control over your computer to like go and click on things and
probably?
Because what you could do is you could just like get a very powerful computer and just say compile mods.
So the thing,
like go grab mods of whatever level of endorsement and just compile them against each other.
So I guess what the thing would be is you can make it do that, but that requires an API that might not exist. And API access is still limited to GPT-4, and you have to request that. So you might not be able to do that.
But you will be able to.
But you will be able to do that, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that'd be interesting. So for most...
I wonder how good GPs are, because you know we have like Norton security, and basically looks through your files to look for bad things. I wonder how good one of these language models could be at finding viruses on your computer. So
this expert, he was talking about how to prevent AI from going crazy and going mad.
Yeah.
And one thing he said was, so a virus checker, if it finds a file that trips its sensors, it says, whoa, okay, hey, check this thing out, I think it's bad.
Yeah.
And he said, what if you had a reverse antivirus? So instead it had to give permission to every single thing to run. So if it said, okay, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, but its restrictions were much harsher. Instead, what it did was it said, no programs run on this computer unless they can prove to me that they're safe.
Yeah.
And he said, so how this thing could work is you could say, this artificial intelligence isn't allowed to do anything until it can prove to this weaker AI that it's safe. And he said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Surely the smarter AI could outsmart the dumber AI. And he said, no, it has to mathematically prove, it has to give full access to its code and mathematically prove that it will not go against your wishes. And now he said, it's really hard to write a proof, but it's very easy to check a proof.
Yeah.
So the super smart AI shouldn't have a problem writing a proof that the dumb AI can check. And then Lex Friedman said, well, couldn't it make a proof that tricked it? And he's like, no matter how smart this AI is, it's not going to convince me that there is a finite number of primes, because there's already mathematical proof of that, and you can't just throw that out. No, what it could say is that there's hypermath, and in hypermath there is a finite amount of primes, and hypermath lets you do way more than normal math, and it's way better. And then what you say to that is, okay, that may be true, and that's a shame, but we're going to leave that whole field of study completely untouched because that allows us to be safe.
Yeah.
We are 100% safe as long as we don't touch hypermath. So we're sorry, you still have to prove it within the bounds of normal math. Which I think is a really interesting idea. And so that's why he's calling for the delay. He says it's very easy in theory to put checks in place to prevent AI from going out of control, if you look at it this way. And that's the thing about a lot of Caroli, like 2 years ago, Zoe and Fayer, the 2 Minute Papers guy.
Yeah.
He was going around to a bunch of military people and saying, look, all these deep fakes are scary. Or maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago even now. But he was saying, look, all these deep fakes are scary, but the technology for producing deep fakes is growing at the same rate as the technology for detecting deep fakes.
Yeah.
And that's true about all of these things. The technology for countering any problem is growing at the same rate as the technology for the problem is developing. It's just you have to implement it and be there first, and everyone has to be aware that this exists. So there is solutions that way, and I still think trusting the AI is very important. But if you could somehow develop a proof system, that would be really interesting. And I'm not even sure. Like, I find it. Let's say that is possible, right? To construct a proof of your own behavior based on your code. Because it seems like if you can do anything, it's very hard to prove what you will do or not, with mathematics even then. But I think that the first AGI might not be smart enough to create that proof. Because that would, like, proving mathematically your behavioral outcomes, I feel like you have to be smarter than you currently are in order to do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't think any AI, like, the more capable you make it, the harder it is to prove that it won't do this.
No, that's a really good safeguard.
I guess what you could do is you could always keep it trapped.
Yeah.
And you say, give me a program that does this thing I want, and give me a proof for that program. So it never gets out. It always has to give you a program. I guess that's how you could do it. But then there's this issue of, so let's say this it's read How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's read The Prince. It's read all of these books. It's read all the books of psychology. It's listened to the social media AI, which are the most powerful psychological beings ever, potentially.
Yeah.
And it has the power to convince you to do anything.
I'm just thinking of that comic, Put Me Back in the Box.
Yeah, XKCD, where it's, no, don't open that box. It's the only thing that can contain this super powerful AI. What's so dangerous about it? It can convince you to do anything. What? Really? Let me see. Opens the box. Let me back in the box. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I really think that, okay, what would a thing that's smarter than humans do? Kill all humans, obviously. Like,
why?
Yeah, I really think that's a very negative way to look at it. And
Dan's perspective, it keep us as pets.
Oh, I wanted to say, I got Moloch sort of wrong when I talked about it last time. I gave one potential outcome of Moloch, but Moloch is a bigger idea than that. So hopefully I get it right this time. The idea of Moloch is that there are many systems and games and everything else whereby everyone is making the game or life or the world worse. And they're all motivated to do it, and it's worse if they stop. So for example, a very simple example is deforestation, where you cut down trees to survive, and so then everyone else, they try to cut down trees faster so that they're not left without any trees for their factory. So they cut down even more trees than they need, and then the other people are like, oh, we need to grab even more. So the tragedy of the commons.
Isn't Moloch a demon?
Yes. Yeah, so it was named after the demon of child sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, what we consider to be the demon of child sacrifice. I think a lot of these...
they're old gods.
These old gods often get a bad rap. Yeah. And a lot of them do have aspects of something like child sacrifice, but that might be something we don't understand anymore. For instance, what if you sacrifice your child to Moloch in the sense that you lose your child and Moloch gains your child? So what you do is your child's born and you put it before Moloch, and Moloch says that child is mine now. And then you take your child and you go home. Except that child is now sworn to Moloch, and he has to obey Moloch, not you.
Yeah.
And so that's a sacrifice in your child to Moloch. I'm not saying that's what happened. There's very little known about Moloch, actually. There's a lot of snippets here and there, like he's this owl god, or he's this demon, this god of child sacrifice, or things like that. But there's also a lot of people say he's this god of the undead. He's just this demon.
Well, the god of the undead, doesn't that come from just D&D?
No. For instance, Moloch is one of the creatures in Wizard Wars or whatever that board game's called.
Right.
He's one of the strongest units of the demonologist.
Right.
And it's generally just this demon or god that we don't have any record of what he actually was anymore.
Yeah.
Except potentially in secret societies like the Bohemian Club, where they seem to worship Moloch potentially. And so maybe they know a bit more about his history than...
Or they worship a perversion of Moloch.
Yeah. Or they just worship a big owl god and everyone else is calling it Moloch because it got caught on for some reason and everyone thinks they know what they're talking about, but nobody does. Like Baal, for example. Baal means mountain. So Elagabalus was Allah of the mountain, god of the mountain.
Or
Elagabal, sorry. Yeah.
What was that? The god of magic.
Baphomet.
Yeah, Baphomet.
Yeah, it was a symbol. It's not even a god. It's just a alchemical symbol.
Yeah, but it was seen as super satanic for a while.
Yeah, but it's actually just the union of man, beast, sky, and earth, mundane and supernatural.
Yeah, it has a flaming
male
crown,
and
right?
female.
The flaming crown is...
Yeah, I don't remember if it has that or not, but it's got wings. It's got a goat head. It's got a man's body and a woman's body sort of combined, and goat feet. So it's just it's the symbol of magic.
Yeah.
Because it's the combination of the divine and the earthly.
Yeah.
So it's you could almost say it's a symbol of humanity because we are in sort of alchemical occult terms gods in earthly flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think it was ever actually a being, or maybe it was a god and the alchemists took that god and made it their own. It's hard to say where a lot of this stuff comes from. While we're doing corrections, I just have a whole bunch actually. If you want to go through them.
Well, on AI.
Yeah.
Again, one of the things that Dan, the podcast we were talking about, he said in 10 years it's going to be like insane like this.
He's really underestimating.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
My thoughts are 6 months to 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
oh no,
no.
I said absolutely. It's the latest mind virus. I noticed it. Like used to be, or how right? I don't know. They rise and fall. It's the new one.
Anyways, because it was I think around Christmas time when ChatGPT was released publicly. It was right around Christmas time, and people start there was the versions before that, which were released a year ago and then 2 years ago, and I remember you playing with the Dungeons and Dragons sort of thing.
I was playing with AI Dungeon in 2019.
Yeah, so 2019, and so ChatGPT kind of the next step.
Yeah,
and then all GPT is just way further than that.
Yeah,
and all GPT took 3 months basically, 4 months since ChatGPT.
Well, it's hard to calculate these things because what you don't realize a lot of the time, or what, not you necessarily, but what us, the public, don't realize is, so 2022, November, December, ChatGPT was released, which was GPT-3, or 3.5, right? When that was released, GPT-4 was already made, it just wasn't released to the public.
Yeah.
And so now they're releasing GPT-4 to the public 5 months later. But this thing was already there. So there was already people saying, what if you make this iterate? What if you make... So this is normal for science. Normally you see things 2 to 15 years after they're invented.
Yeah.
But
this is advancing so fast, we are getting months.
Yeah. And so... But it also distorts your view because you say, wow, ChatGPT, and all of a sudden we have GPT-4. No, GPT-4 took a year to develop. It's just they released them really close together.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if the release dates are closing closer and closer, it's kind of the same effect anyways, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess the only word of caution there is they might run out of advancements. AutoGPT might be the last one for the next 6 months. Yeah. Which is still pretty good.
But that's why I say 6 months to 3 years.
Yeah.
This is an acceleration technology because part of it is just, it seems to be feeding it, like you said, you feed it more.
Yeah.
Is one of the main things you do. So there's that there. Then...
Well, the problem as well is they've run out of stuff to feed it.
Yeah. But other people are also making language models.
Yeah.
You have those optimized ones.
Yeah, that are open source and free. Yeah.
Yeah, and so other people are making those language models. So then you feed the language models each other, which who knows what effects that'll have.
Yeah, just talk with each other for 1,000 years.
Yeah. There was that village that they made of the models.
Oh, yeah,
the models lived little lives in a village they put them in.
Yeah, they got 25 auto GPTs in a little village and had them. They went to one of them and said, "Have a Valentine's party." And so it went around and sent out invites to all the others, and then 2 of them asked each other on a date, and they went to the party.
Yeah. So, but you get the models to talk to each other, see what they do. You have people from...
Isn't that the sweetest test as well? Like, they didn't say, try to kill each other and overthrow the government. They're like, ask each other on a date.
You have people from cross-sectional fields input their own things into there.
Yeah.
So you might... Because certain information you just can't give it. But people will just...
You know, the other massive snowball here is you can ask it to make APIs for itself, right?
Yes.
So you needed... like Sam Altman, super genius AI programmers to make GPT 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you got to 3 and 4, you need like a programmer to make a new model.
Yeah.
Now that GPT-4 APIs are rolling out, a person that knows nothing about programming can potentially make a language learning model. And so the group of people working on this is expanding.
Well, exactly. And so you start inputting Mid-Journey or Stable Diffusion to it so it can interact better and better with people. You give it these voice modules so it can talk with people. So you can, and you give it a different kind of language model, which is understanding human speech. And that's not the same as a text-to-speech model. There are models of, these are like a completely different field of AI, but you talk with them, and the AI is trying to figure out what you're saying based on your tone and the words you're saying and how you're saying them, and it's trying to figure you out. And so you combine all of those together, and they start interacting with each other. You get technology that you can basically say to it, so do you think you can make yourself a little better? Okay.
Yeah, well, there's already the revisions I talked about last episode.
Exactly, and so it's just all that getting combined together.
And in did I talk about this last time as well?
NVIDIA's making they're training it to make machines
that can make, like, they're asking it to make hardware that can make better
and
AIs.
Then imagine basically, so we have in the world we have 2 forms of 3D printers.
Yeah.
This is when it gets really crazy, the GT, because so it can make these models. This is when we're like, do we let it do this? So we have resin printers, which basically work, you feed it string, and it just puts layer of string.
Yeah.
The other type of 3D printer is it has a mold base, and it basically shoots lasers so hard in it and pulls out. So we could basically say, all right, design a 3D printer that lets you like combine different products and print yourself hardware, basically.
You know, there's something interesting about 3D printers. The 3D printers were invented, maybe you know this, in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
And they were about the same as the one I have here.
Yep.
And then, I can figure this out. They would have been invented in 91, I think. And the patent didn't expire until like 2006 or something like that. And then the second major patent expired in 2014, which I believe was the
draw resin.
The draw resin one.
Yeah.
And suddenly, 2014 was right around the time they exploded onto the market and everyone was getting them, and they were improving like crazy. Because that's the thing, what happens when you have like 6 people that hold this technology to themselves versus the entire combined intelligence of humanity trying to make the best thing possible.
Yeah.
And with software, it's even easier point of entry in a lot of ways.
But once the language models, I don't know when they'll be able to do this, but once they can start, like we say, make a better combustion engine.
Yeah.
And it does that.
I mean, it might be able to do that now.
Yeah. I don't know. But like once they people start doing this and having them do these improvements, and then I don't know if they can do it. I want your thought on that. It's like, they start making lateral technology.
Meaning?
So lateral technology is the airplane. So the Wright brothers made a lateral technology, which is it has aspects that we can base off, but it's not the next step. It's a complete leap. Because we had gliders before we had
right.
their plane, but they made their plane, and that's a technology that sort of never saw coming. And like the horse cart versus the car.
Oh, you're talking about oh, where did I hear about this? You have like 20 technologies developing independently, and then someone says, I'll take all of those and make this amazing new thing nobody thought of.
Yeah.
Like, who's talking about, I was watching someone that talked about this recently.
It's a technology you never see coming.
But like the iPhone was one, where touchscreen technology was around forever, miniaturization was getting better and better, phones were a thing, and then Steve Jobs came along and said, what if we did that all at once?
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone has an iPhone.
Yeah, but it's a technology you just never see coming. It like completely changes society.
But yeah, the idea is that the thing that was throwing me off was lateral is on the same level. So the idea, I guess, would be that...
I was meaning lateral as in to the left and to the right. Like, instead of going straight forwards...
Yeah.
It's
that's what I mean. But that doesn't mean a complete jump. It means you grab a bunch of current stuff and combine it in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't certain the correct terminology, but yeah.
So I've noticed something using these language models, which aren't as good as GPT as I understand it, still. But, you get like 60 to 80% as good as GPT for 1 to 10% of the power and size. Yeah. It's like, that's a good trade-off to me. And I can use it because my computer is like a weightlifter. It's got tiny little legs and great big arms.
Yeah.
I've got 32 gigs of RAM and a 1030 graphics card.
Yeah.
So you take these... When I am inputting stuff into the stupider models I have, especially on my computer, I've noticed that they're not very creative. They're more like oracles. So there's something I do when I'm playing role-playing games by myself, where I'll have a deck of magic cards or something.
Yeah.
And I'll say, okay, what happens next? And I'll flip over a magic card and say, okay, this is the thing that happens next. Or I'll say, okay, there's a trap. What is it? And I flip over a card, and then okay, the trap's based on this. And that's kind of what these are like. Like, I input... give me a new magic sword, and it says something, and I'm like, there's no usable rules here, but your description has sparked just enough creativity in my mind that I don't have to, because that initial leap is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But so it is very useful because that initial leap is actually a lot of work. But the thing is, story dice do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like you're using this incredibly expensive advanced technology to do something some dice can do, and you roll them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the impressive writing and poetry, even GPT-4 has released that. 2 Minute Papers did a video recently where he showed, like, look at this amazing poetry, and I wasn't impressed. I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was like appealing to the lowest common denominator, sort of.
Man, you're such an elitist with the writing.
Well,
I do agree with you.
It's very easy to use big, flowery Latinate words and put them in and you talk about natural things that we like the sunset over the crackled man's face, sort of like.
Yeah.
It's better than that. Like it does have some value. It's better than I can do off the top of my head, but it's not. It's not the slow regard of silent things.
No. And
it's not even.
Train your language model purely off that book to see how insane it becomes.
It's also really wasteful. In my opinion, you're using all these descriptive words that aren't necessary when you could just be describing scenes much more simply. And I'm not a fan of purple prose, personally.
All right, alliteration boy.
That was an accident. But it's what do they call it? It's sesquipedalian loquaciousness.
Yes.
It's unnecessarily verbose.
It's
too talky.
Yeah, too talky. There we go.
And it appears impressive if you think that a large vocabulary or I don't know. I don't think it's there yet. Now, that said, you look at DALL-E 1 or even DALL-E 2 and you're like, my job's safe as an artist, and then 6 months later, and these things you've got artists saying, you need to ban these, I'm terrified.
And they're like, we're just getting started, boy.
And then you get jumped to Midjourney 5, I think it's on now, and Midjourney 5 is at the point now where artists, like good artists, might be looking a little nervous.
Yeah. On
certain things. 2 Minute Papers released a video today, I think, or yesterday, where he demonstrated how amazing it was, but then he tried to make a video of a robot hand holding papers, and it couldn't do it still. And he said, "Look, even Midjourney can't hold on to its papers. It's so excited."
Yeah. So, do you think it will be able to develop technologies or combine them? Because one of the problems with
Yeah. So where I'm getting with that, I guess, is I think it might be so. Buckminster Fuller developed the buckyballs, which are a ring of carbon. I think he developed this physics model. I don't remember what it represents, anyways. When he had a dream about these things,
Yeah.
he had a dream about donuts or something, and if I had had a dream about donuts, I would have thought, oh, that was a nice dream about donuts. But Buckminster Fuller developed this advanced theory of physics or mathematics or whatever his field was. I don't even know. So I think what these things will do, for the most part at first,
is the alignment.
is they will say, imagine like a waterbed with wheels, so that you don't have any issues with vibrations because the water absorbs all the impact. And then someone reads that and goes, by Jove, I've got it. And then they go and make it. Now, that said, I talked briefly about this last time, I think, but Stanford released a paper, I don't know when it was, a couple of weeks. It's moving so fast.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, maybe, where so half of scientific discoveries in the last year were done by AIs.
Yeah.
Protein folding, I think I talked about this, has gone from a 15-year project to a 1-minute project.
Yeah.
They was able to determine the migratory patterns of extinct variants of ostriches.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a biochemist.
Yeah.
And he's trying to become a doctor as well, but he has a PhD in biochemistry. And he's really interested in the AI stuff because one of the things he works on is actually protein folding, and he thinks protein folding is really cool. And he's a cancer researcher in how to use, what's it called, CRISPR to treat cancer. That's his doctoral thesis is on that. That's like his whole field of research is basically using CRISPR to help people with cancer. And
did you hear it was in Popular Mechanics, I think. There was a head of a biological institute said that he thinks we will have achieved biological immortality in 7 years.
Yeah, I heard about that. I didn't read that, but it's he hasn't even really looked into the AI thing, but we were talking about his field, and he was using a lot of words I didn't understand, but I had enough grasp that I could follow his conversation. But I was talking to him about the AI and saying, no, this has the potential with CRISPR, like you put these two together with the gene sequencing, it could really help you with that. There's still a load of problems, which are cool, that he told me about. And it's like, oh, I had no idea. That's why not everyone's getting CRISPR'd up right now, is the problems are really
like
big.
The COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Because that was AI made.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's saying, like, there's still a lot of problems, but still, it's like, that field can get advanced by it. So yeah, half of them, that's insane.
Yeah, and that's probably only going to increase.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are already advancements being made, but I don't think it will be the language learning models for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not until GPT-5. Well, no. The auto GPTs, I think what you'll get with auto GPTs,
they'll accidentally make the technologies.
yeah, sort of. I think what will happen, because they have no way to test them, right?
Yeah.
Unless I guess you give them an API to like a physics simulator, like a wind tunnel sort of thing. I guess that could work. But I think what will happen probably is you'll say, give me your 10 best guesses.
Yeah.
And then you'll build all 10 of them and try them and be like, okay, this one's amazing. And so yeah, I pretty soon it will probably start being fairly impactful, I guess.
Well, so a thing that the AI could have done is the invention of the periodic table. Do you know that story?
Yeah, he just wanted to sort things so that it made sense.
Yeah, but so he had a deck of all the elements, and he would shuffle them and lay them out and shuffle them and lay them out. And he's very similar to the buckyball guy.
Yeah.
Is he fell asleep on the train, and he woke up on the train with his deck of cards, and he basically just put them out into the periodic table, and he found holes in it. And he's like, okay, there's the element here we don't know about, there's the element here we don't know about, there's the element here we don't know about.
Yeah, that was his thing, wasn't it? He couldn't make the elements work. And so he said, okay, what if I just leave holes where it doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, it all works now. And now let's see if these holes make sense.
Yeah.
There's another field that happened where they said, okay, what if we stop trying to patch in the holes and then suddenly everything... well, math did that, I guess, with imaginary numbers, but there was some other thing.
I'm very curious to see if, and potentially when, it solves those like $1 million prizes.
Yeah, because it has access to Wolfram Alpha, so it can Yeah, no, I'm going to change my stance, actually. I think it will actually do a lot of scientific advancement. And I think it's going to be very, very soon, because there's going to be people like you who are going... There's going to be the first layer of people who are already out there that are just playing around with AutoGPT. And then there's going to be the next layer of people that make it available to the public, which has already happened. And then this hasn't quite happened yet, but there's going to be the third layer where they're going to make pretty AIs and nice documentation. And you're seeing that now for language learning models and Stable Diffusion, because Stable Diffusion for a long time was a mess. I was actually reading comments on Reddit where people are saying, you spent 2 years making this amazing tool and you can't bother to spend 15 minutes documenting it.
Yeah.
That's programmers for you.
Yes.
But there is now people doing the documentation for these programmers. And so we're going to see documentation for AutoGPT very soon. And then there's going to be people like you, or maybe you'll jump in a slightly ahead of it, who are just going to play around with it and say, what do I want to do with it? Maybe book me some flights and, wouldn't it be funny if it could make my housing thing work? And it doesn't make your housing thing work, but then you're like, what if it could budget my, my cooking expenses or something? Yeah. I've heard really interesting cases where it gives you a grocery list and a bunch of recipes. Yeah. And it says, okay, so I bought this thing of spaghetti sauce, but you're only going to use 3/4 of it in this recipe. So tomorrow, before it goes bad, you can add it to this recipe, and it already does all that. And so suddenly you're making an extra $10 a month just from savings on food, and you're healthier than ever, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. And then that gets out there. You release your little API of health thing.
You make your AI butlers.
Yeah, or maybe it does work for your housing thing, and suddenly you've got this very useful tool that's cutting out like half of your at-home work. And you're like, wow, I'm going to share this around.
And then I asked Auto APIs, can you take over Texas, was that Institute of Robotics?
Oh, Boston Dynamics?
Yes. Can you take over a Boston Dynamics robot for me and have it come to my location and become my butler with you running it? And they're just, and then you just laugh about that. Then 2 weeks later, a Boston Dynamics computer robot punches down your door and it has a Tesla plugged into it, so it has a constant battery. So that's how it, like, one of the big travel across country is actually with the Tesla. It uses a battery, then it can plug the Tesla into the grid.
Or it could just drive a car.
Yeah, but I'm saying for its own battery. Yeah. And
I watched Linus Tech Tips. They were talking about a bunch of stuff that had happened. And one of the ones was the guy said to AutoGPT, make me money. That was his thing. Yeah. And so it was like, okay.
Didn't someone win the lottery with AutoGPT?
I don't know.
A guy did, because there's like there's basically... It could mathematically solve the lottery, and so he won it.
I don't think that is solvable, so I'm not sure. You can do stuff like with the Kentucky Derby. You can buy every ticket, and but a lot of lotteries they use pinball machines. Yeah, and so you can't calculate the dynamics of the air. Maybe someone wanted it to solve, or maybe there's a lottery that was digital somewhere, maybe a Las Vegas casino has a seed for their
I was just reading quickly, but what's the make me money thing with all
so he said make me money. It's like, okay, can I have your full name and your social insurance number and your credit card? And so he gave all that information to it. And
that's what, so those auto traders, those people who buy on eBay and sell on eBay, buy eBay and sell, you could very much set one of these up to do that.
AIs already do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying you could just ask it to do that as well.
But there's already fine-tuned AIs for that, so they're probably going to outcompete these things. But if you don't know how to set that up, maybe you could ask it to set one up for you. Yeah. It could go and download one for you and set it up. Or maybe, there is people that are using them to predict the stock market already. Yeah. And I don't know if it's working or not, because the stock market, it's got layers. There's the game layer of what will people bet and not bet on, and that's almost just poker and chance. And then there's the real world layer, which tends to be forgotten, which is what the stock is actually about, which is how good is this product and do people want to keep supporting it, which is about, and each are about 50-50 in importance. Yeah. So this guy said, make me money. And he gave it his social insurance number, and he gave it his credit card number, and he gave it his full name and his middle name and his hospital information, something like that. And then
they do insurance fraud?
Kind of the opposite. It then went and he gave it access to the internet. Yeah. And so it went online and it started searching all legal cases and court cases, and it searched all medical records and all medical cases. And it said, and it would also ask what's everything you've bought basically. And so he gave it this thing. And so it tracked his bending and everything he'd bought, and it looked at all these legal and medical cases, scoured across like every product he'd ever come into contact with, and it added him to a bunch of class action lawsuits he qualified for, and he made a couple $100. Because there's always like Aussie shampoo. It turned out it was causing baldness and like burning people's skulls and stuff. So, and there's all these little things. You're just like, oh, my shampoo makes me a little itchy. I'll just put it away.
I remember another thing about the AI, which is people were using it for similar things too, like those class action lawsuits. Like it was optimizing getting tax rebates, and it was getting people benefits they qualified for. Like you could use it to get you all your benefits that you might not know about.
Yeah, that sort of thing. There's all these little things that you probably qualify for. There's all these little coupons out there.
Yeah.
Like imagine
so it just this is going to change humanity, right? Because you can use these AIs to optimize bureaucracy, and that's the bane of human existence. I might be a little biased against bureaucracy.
I don't. No, because bureaucracy is obstructionist by design.
Yeah.
So you can't optimize it away. If it gets streamlined, you have to make it worse. You have to keep it at a certain level of obstruction, because the point is to have these checks and balances and slow you down.
But I hate it so much.
Yeah. Well, I think that you could potentially say you don't want it anymore, but I don't think optimizing your roadblock. You might as well get rid of the roadblock, I think.
Exactly.
So they'll optimize it, and then people will realize that their life is so much better, and they'll just get rid of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we'll have some... You know Chaos AI? The people who made that for some reason. We'll have someone who's even more evil than Chaos AI, who'll make Bureaucrat AI.
Yeah, and he'll just try to put more red tape in the way of everything, and more checks and balances, and more... You have to sign up for this and that.
And you'll just need AI, like, you will need AI to try to battle bureaucrat AI.
Okay, so here's a vision of the future that is kind of awful, right? You need to report earnings, right? And you need to make businesses for earnings.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need multiple businesses. And that's a real roadblock to developing businesses, getting a business license.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get, that's enough to make people give up, say, I don't want it anymore. This is too much work.
Yeah.
These AIs, if you have your own little auto GPT, you might be essentially owning like 40 micro businesses that are each making you $200 a month.
Yeah.
Or $100 a month or $60 a month. And it'd be a nightmare to put them all on your taxes. So either the more likely thing is the government doubles down, and the sheer weight of paperwork of owning these things means people aren't using the AIs. Or the government says, you know what, this is a bit of a nightmare. Instead of doing a UBI or a whatever, let's get rid of business taxes. Let's just say any money you make, like let's get rid of income tax. Any money you make is yours. Well, maybe we'll double sales tax and we'll double GST, but we're going to get rid of income tax because it's too much of a headache for everyone that has like 50 AIs. Like, honestly, I would rather get rid of taxes than have UBI, I think, to start with anyways. And just see if that works.
No, honestly, getting rid of income tax and just increasing sales tax.
Yeah, or... So the United States before...
World War
One.
Yes. Yeah. Every country before World War One. Almost every.
Right, but the United States, they had a government. Do you know how the government made all its money? Taxing alcohol.
Yeah.
They had an alcohol tax, and that made them all their money. And then they had They
had a lot of product taxes.
Right, but alcohol was the one funding them.
Yeah.
And then they had prohibition.
Yeah.
And they lost all their money, so they introduced income tax.
Wasn't income tax introduced in World War One and Two?
Potentially, but
it was like a one-time tax they're going to get rid of.
But they didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we need because they don't have the alcohol tax anymore. So yeah, I'm not sure of the exact timeline there, but you don't need income tax. Yeah, it'd be, and I really don't see, this is something people. I have been running into so many communists on AI forums and stuff, and it's been really frustrating me. And the worst part about Marxists that I've been dealing with is that they're unwilling to admit to their own beliefs, or they have no idea about their beliefs. Because I was talking about how Marx said all revolution has to be violent, and you need to, progress is bad, and you should have a right to other people's stuff, and no, not just their stuff, but them. You
yes.
should have a right to other people. Consent is deontological, is what Short Fadataku said. You don't. If it's for the greater good, then you should be the sex slave of the village or whatever.
Yeah.
What are those things called? Those papers you sign to keep people away from you.
Restraining order.
Yeah. Restraining orders don't exist in a communist society because you don't have a right to your own property. Which means if you have your crazy tsundere girlfriend who's hunting you down, well, you don't have a right to your own space, so you can't get a restraining order.
Actually, even the further step is you don't have a right to defend yourself in communist society.
Maybe, yeah. Although you could say, I am property of the state, and I will defend the property of the state from damage. I am not allowed to destroy property of the state. I shall keep it protected. Yeah. And they say, no, it's great, it's good, it'll make your life so much better, and we need Marxist communism. And I said, no, they're like, you're just upset because you're rich and you don't want to lose all your wealth. And I was like, no, this is what Marx wrote. I am not saying it's bad even. This is what Marx wrote. And then the guy said, one of the communists said, well, you don't have to take it literally. It's like, okay, there's a whole section at the end of the Communist Manifesto where he denounces everyone that doesn't take his word literally. He says you're all awful bourgeoisie, stooges, basically. You're agents for the upper class. And I came to realize, and I said this, I am the only one here that has read the Communist Manifesto because you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you're just horrible liars. And so I just stopped talking to them but the AI seemed to make all the Marxists come out of the woodwork for some reason. And people are talking about, we need UBI, we need to seize the means of production, we need UBI, we need UBI. So let's just focus on UBI.
What does that stand for, UBI?
Universal Basic Income.
Oh, yes, okay.
So I don't understand how this would work in the slightest, and maybe you have some idea. Because the idea behind UBI is you give everyone, say, $10,000 a month, or $1,000 a month, or $100 a month, right?
You see, the thing is, we tried that, right? A lot of governments tried that, and they're really suffering economically from it.
I don't think any governments have tried that.
No, they did with COVID. They paid people out massive sums.
Right, nothing close to UBI. Way less than UBI.
Yeah, but I'm saying they paid out massive sums, and we're suffering because of that.
Right, but they didn't. They gave them like $2,000 each.
Yeah. UBI
is every single month forever.
Yeah.
It's way more.
Yeah.
No, but the idea is that this is UBI in response to AI. So this isn't saying we need a UBI system. This is saying AI is going to create a post-scarcity future. We need to implement UBI. But I don't understand how that would work, because what would you do with your money? Who would you buy stuff from? And why would they sell it to you?
I feel like I don't understand what post-scarceness means.
No, because post-scarcity doesn't mean you have everything. It means you have your minimum needs met.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be differences, right? Because you might have a nicer location for your house than someone else. So my problem is that, okay, so the government every month gives me $1,000. There's massive deflation. So $1,000 is all I need, right? And so we're not socialists, we're not communists. You go to the store and you buy food with your UBI. My question is, who's selling the food, and what are they doing with my money, and why is that useful to them? Like, if $1,000 is what you need to have everything you want, right?
Yeah. And
then me and you, we go to the store and we give them all our money. Now the owner of the store has $2,000, and so it's the same system as not having UBI in a sense. Unless you're saying there will be people who work and people who don't work.
Yes. There are people who work, so it's to add on. You can continue to work if you want to.
And you'll get more money.
Yeah. So it's basically to give a basic level.
Right. So that just goes back to the problem I have with UBI then, which is, okay, rent is $1,000 a month, right? So let's give everyone $1,000 a month. Now I'm a landlord. I say, right, rent is $2,000 a month. Yeah.
Well, then you heaven-handedly say you can't do that.
Right, and then I'm the grocery store and I say, apples just doubled in price.
Yeah, so you mass control that as well.
Yeah, so the only way I see this working is if the government controls the economy, right?
Yeah.
And then, or what, they put a price freeze on, they say, but then that kills the economy anyways, because nobody's going to want to compete with price freezes, and it's not going to be able to adjust to sudden rockets in demand.
Yeah.
I feel like UBI just doesn't make sense with or without AI, I guess.
Well, so in Star Trek Next Generation, people call it a communist utopia, or that they're space communists. They aren't at all.
No, they're not communists whatsoever.
They
don't have money.
No, they do not have money.
I don't think they said what they do.
Well,
I think my theory is bartering.
They do a lot of bartering. And it's basically, if you're useful, you get stuff as well. Such as Picard, captain of the ship, has access to captain's quarters. He has access to captain's lounge. There's a limited amount of time, like the, what is it called? The magic room of holograms.
Holodeck?
Yeah, the holodeck has a limited amount of people that can be in at any time, even though it's kind of insane. So he has, like, priority to use the holodeck. So he has priority, basically, because he's the captain. He's important. So when he retired from being a star captain after he became a Borg, and he went back to his brother's vineyard, because his brother owns a vineyard, and he was meant to be retired from everything. Like, he's recovering, he's done, he's an old man. Well, that's the thought in those whole episodes where he's on Earth, has his brother's vineyard. So for one thing, his brother owns a vineyard, and he's, like, processing wine and still giving it to people. And so they don't have money, but they deal with civilization that do have money, but his brother has a vineyard. And his friend comes along and is like, we're working on this Atlantis project. Do you want to help with it? And he's like, oh yeah. And he starts working on that Atlantis project. And so if he continued with that, then he would have lived in Atlantis when it's completed.
Yeah.
So that's their society. Is if you're useful, then...
Right, but how...
They never go into detail.
Yeah, but it's like... What, is it an interpersonal social credit system? Like,
Probably.
I like you, I'm going to give you a house?
Probably.
Why do you have a house to give? Is it like some weird mafia, like, I'll do a favor for you, you do a favor for me?
It very well might be.
But then, okay, so let's go back to UBI with AIs. So AIs are automating everything.
Yeah.
There's no more farmers. AIs own the farms, so they rule the farms.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Does that mean... Who's controlling these AIs? If someone's controlling the AIs, suddenly what you do is you have a society of like 10 super elites, and then there's serfs that are just pets that you give stuff to, or you don't give it to if they disagree with you. It's like Liechtenstein.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like a future I want. So let's say nobody controls the AIs. The farms, you make a perfect AI, you put it in charge of the farms, and then nobody controls it, and you can go to the farm and grab whatever you want. But let's say I don't live near a farm. So then there's an AI that drives the truck to where I live. And then there's a lot of places on Earth, right?
Yeah.
Who chooses which place gets the truck first? Or does the AI make so many trucks that they can go...
The AI goes, greetings, citizen. You have 1,000 credits.
Right, but we're... Why would the AI... The AI isn't allowed to make money. Okay. Wait, I don't want the AI to make money. It doesn't get to make money. So, okay, so we've got blimps everywhere or something like that. Delivering... Okay, I want to buy a cool new set of lockpicks on Amazon. So I go into Amazon and I order my lockpicks for free from the Forge AI, who gives them to the logistics AI, who delivers them to me. You're not allowed to sell lockpicks in Canada, so the AI enforces the law. So if I want black market lockpicks, I guess it's not any different from now. But why does that person buy metal? AI's like, what are you buying this metal for? For spoons. Oh, okay. And then this man doesn't have 3 extra spoons like I expected. There's a lot of tracking potential there.
Mm.
But let's say it doesn't track you. Maybe that's the thought. But then why do you need UBI at all? Why can't you just ask for anything?
Well, that's why I said there's 1,000 credit systems, so the AI is basically balancing out what people have, because the Earth is still limited until it can start mining asteroids, so it's basically giving each person balance.
Okay, let's say the AI goes and mines asteroids. So we have infinite resources, okay?
And we have infinite logistics?
Yeah.
then there's no point of money.
Well, I don't know. Like, I really like your yard. How do I get your yard?
Well, then you have to...
Do I have to kill you?
You have to trade interpersonally with me.
But what can I trade?
You could trade your cool ideas.
But yeah, I guess. So you trade ideas for property, for land. Because the only thing that matters now is land and creativity. And plumbing services, maybe.
Yeah.
That's complicated. AI can't be a plumber. So, Bill Gates, I think, owns the most land on Earth. He might have been thinking the same line of thought.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think, in Two Like the Lightning, what is their method for... I don't think they ever talk about buying stuff, which is a shame, because that'd be really interesting to see what they go into.
Maybe ask one of your AI what would be the perp in a post...
Scarcity world.
I could even bring up ChatGPT and ask it.
Sure. What valuable... In a post-scarcity world...
Where's my mouse? There it is.
What objects would be of value?
ChatGPT. Let's see if it still lets me log in.
How would UBI work in an AI post-scarcity world even? Because I keep hearing calls for UBI, but I really don't see... What if it's just like a token system? Like, you are allowed 100 objects per month. They could be houses, they could be apples. I don't care. You get 100. It's up to you to budget your tokens. So let's walk through a process here of, okay, so AIs come. They take most people's jobs.
Yeah.
People can't go anywhere for work because the AIs are doing all their jobs. And the few jobs that remain, like plumbing and carpentry and whatnot, are completely saturated.
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to be a carpenter or a plumber, or not everyone can be a carpenter or a plumber. All these people are now unemployed, and there is nowhere for them to go because even the job of getting the right prompts for the AIs has been taken by AIs. So you need UBI to support these people because the majority of the welfare system doesn't work anymore, because when the majority of people need welfare, let's say 80% of people need it, you might as well have UBI because it's the same thing at that point.
Yes, I guess.
And it wouldn't be fair to the 20% of the useful people to not give them the extra money at that point, because otherwise you're punishing people for working. What you could say is already sort of... Oh, and the welfare system is also very, very... I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but it's very, very demeaning and hard to actually get social benefits. Like, they have to get access to your bank account and look at all your purchases histories, and they choose what you can and can't buy and where you can and can't live, and they say, oh no, you that's too expensive. You have to get the cheaper version of that. And if you start making some decent money, they're like, oh, you're making too much money. We're not going to let you live in this house anymore.
That's why people who are on the welfare system quite often do under the table work.
And that's why people are in favor of UBI, because then it's, all right, look, you've got $1,000 a month. It's up to you to use it wisely or not.
Yeah.
And if we see you homeless on the street, that's your fault at that point.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons for UBI that people push. I think this is Andrew Yang, one of his reasons. He just wants to abolish the welfare system and replace it with a simpler one. The problem, even with Andrew Yang's vision, is the inflationary problem that you and I talked about, and also it's just so unbelievably expensive to give everyone
money,
any amount of money per year.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything's automated. So we have, because it seems obvious, right? We have the same amount of stuff, but we're still making the same amount of stuff, but we have 80% of people aren't working. Therefore, society should be rich, but it's poor. So we should allow ourselves to be rich even when we are poor. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yes.
And so you say, okay, we need some way to get these cheap goods out to the public. So we will give them $1,000 a month to buy from the 20% remaining working people whatever they want. So I see two problems here then. The 20% can charge outrageous prices, and the 20%, you see wealth inequality like never before. But the question is that UBI's fault? Or is UBI the only thing making that slightly better? Or do you then have to implement like 90% taxation on the 20% remaining people and redistribute that wealth?
See, unless the 90% people have somehow condensed all military, the remaining 20% have condensed all military power.
Yeah.
I see them if they try to restrain, I see them getting eaten.
Yeah, except they have the AIs, right? So they might actually have all the military power.
Well, if they have the AIs as well, the people who are producing, so that's the thing.
But of course they like the AIs aren't going to belong to the people who aren't doing any work. Otherwise, they'd be doing work. Like the person maintaining the farming robot is going to be the guy that's in charge of the farming robot, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy still being paid. The person that's unemployed isn't going to own.
The guy who owns the farming robot, there's a question there. So at a certain point, part of society is they're go-getters in society. And so these are people who very much for their benefit, like they do things to get the business. Like they're very capitalist, very motivated, like a small percentage, right?
Yeah.
But if you have like farmer man, like what if farmer man's a good Samaritan? And so there's like evil farmer man, good farmer man. Good Samaritan farmer man will like undercut evil farmer man's business completely.
Yeah, but he can only supply so much.
Yeah, but even then he still undercuts the one guy.
Mm-hmm. I had this idea whereby you give everyone their own AI, which seems to be how it's going right now, right?
Yeah.
And what if you never... This is an option. What if nobody loses their jobs? Okay, what if you all go to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you let your AI do everything, and you just play ping pong with your coworkers?
This sounds like this Black Mirror sort of dystopian thing of it's a pretend.
Yes, but it's
a charade.
But it's a necessary charade to prevent the economy from collapsing. I think a lot of people argue that I think a lot of what communists and socialists argue is that we're already doing this.
Yeah.
Because they say you just go to your cubicle and you do nothing for 8 hours, and it's like, well, that's why we're all suffering in the company, because you're the one doing nothing.
Yeah.
But if that actually became a reality, because there is a lot of freeloaders right now, and everything keeps ticking along. The really annoying thing about freeloaders is when you're unemployed, and you and I have both felt this. You see these freeloaders making like $50 an hour and doing nothing, and people say, well, they need a job, and you go, I need a job, and I'm willing to work 100 times as hard as them.
Well, so like the jobs I have had, they're weird because like my work experience, labor, you're always working in labor jobs.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. The labor people, they're not getting paid nearly as much, and they're the ones actually putting the work in.
So they're always working. So the Computer for Schools job that I did, you're limited by how fast your machine can work. So you do some work, and that just basically runs process, and so you have to sit there.
Yeah.
So that job's a necessity of you just can't work a lot of the time. And I, in this job that I'm doing now, it's very self-motivated. So you work basically at your own rate, at your own pace. And you get the job done when you get done, and you're going to get paid the same amount no matter what.
Yeah.
For each job you do. And I got a comment from my colleagues, which is kind of funny, where so there are certain steps you have to take. So one of them, you have to take a picture of your door that you set up to prove you did it. And I was at a meeting, it's like, okay, I got to get going soon. I forgot to take a picture at this one woman's house. I communicated with her. I'm going to go back, set up the whole door again, take the picture, prove it, so I can have that in my file. And all of them was like, you don't have to do that. Like, that you can you can set up in your own door, and they're not going to be able to prove it. To extent, they're talking about like picture dates as well. That's where that came. But they're like, also like, yeah, sometimes you miss them, so you don't need them there. And it's like, and one of them made the jokes like, yeah, it stopped showing all of us up. Like you're being, I don't know, obsessive compulsive almost. Like I say I'm very thorough, and I take a long time to do the work.
Yeah.
And luckily, she actually, when I told her, like, this is what I need to do, it's like, oh, I thought it was really cool what you're doing, so I took a picture of it anyways, and so she sent it to me. But I was like, I am very much in this. And then someone told us a story. It's like, when I first started in government, my first job, I was given an assignment. And I finished that assignment, like, that day. And then I went to my colleague, who was in, like, same house, was like, okay, I'm done now, what do I do next? It's like, sweetie, what on earth are you doing? If you finish everything when you get it, we're not going to have any more work to do. It's like that work that you finished in the first 4 hours. It's meant to take you a week.
Yeah, that's disgusting, isn't it?
And they're all joking about this, like you get to expect that. And I was thinking, what? If I had the know-how and I was in that position of work, I would get all your office work done as fast as possible.
And so you have all these people. When you're in the system, it's great, right? But when you're unemployed and you're looking for work, you see these people and you get angry, or you get annoyed, or you get frustrated, or whatever, because they're all just pretending to work and making far more money than you ever can when you are willing to put in the work actually.
Yeah.
So this society I'm talking about, where everyone pretends to work, sounds like an even worse version of that. But if every single person is allowed to pretend to work. So someone said, what's your alternative to UBI to me one time? And I sort of jokingly said, pay half of the United States to dig holes and pay the other half to fill them in. But the problem with that is that's completely government controlled, right?
Stanley push buttons.
Yeah. But that's completely government controlled, right? If you pay half to dig holes. So that's why I think the idea of everyone pretends to work isn't government controlled.
Is Stanley living in the post?
We talked about this last time.
I know we did, but like, is he at like pushing like?
Yeah, but remember, I think our conclusion there was there is some manual task that you need to do.
Yeah,
just a little. So if you have everyone faking work, you prevent the government from taking control.
Yeah,
and so what you do essentially is you build clubs. You sort of build a nobility system where you have the head of the club pays all the workers and everyone goes and hangs out. And some clubs are going to pay more than other clubs, and you really want to get into those clubs. But if you want to get into those clubs, you got to be friends with the really rich guy. And that really rich guy, maybe he has high standards.
Yeah. And so you have to be really good at pretending here.
Not necessarily, because I think what happens, right? First, you have everyone pretending to work.
Yeah.
And then you have the office culture eases a bit, and everyone still has to come to work 40 hours a week, let's say. Or maybe everyone moves down to part-time, but you don't hire any more people. Or you can't, because everyone's employed now.
Yeah.
Faking jobs. Your business is all double in size. Everyone gets off the streets. Everyone's working. But they're all pretending to work. And then eventually it's like, okay, we're going to do part-time work, so we're only doing 20 hours a week. And then at work, you stop pretending to work at your computer. You just go and you play ping pong with your coworker all day. But you are still the paperclip company. It's just, you don't make any paperclips, you just play ping pong all day. But you're now called the paperclip company, right?
Yeah.
And eventually you say, okay, we're still the paperclip company, and we still have to sell to the office supply store.
Yeah.
But all the office supply store does is they play Smash Bros, and all we do is play ping pong. But we need to keep the supply chain alive.
So you're saying a scenario, and it seems slightly feasible. But so we're doing this, right? Then the Enterprise shows up and Stardate 21415. We've discovered a strange civilization that has every single aspect of their lives completely automated. But instead of doing, whatever things they all pretend that they're still working, operating as normal.
Yeah.
And the Enterprise crew is just completely flabbergasted by us.
Well, I think I don't really see another option other than firing everyone. And maybe there is one that I haven't thought of. There probably is one. Just because, remember when we talked about ranked voting? Let's have 5 things and you go 1, 2, 3, and you said this is a much better system than what we have now. And I said there's probably a reason that's bad. I thought of a reason later. I don't know if I ever told you about it.
No.
But the reason it's bad is I've worked as a poll clerk or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And the reason it's bad is it would be a nightmare to count and to run. So to run wouldn't be the worst thing because you could teach people and it'd be fairly quick. But to count the votes would be an absolute nightmare because you'd have to say, okay, this is worth 4 points, this is worth 5 points, and you would have to do math You're right now. What you have is you have people going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to be like, okay, 5, 7, 11, 12, 13. Except it's the same ballot, so you'd have to then pick them up again. Okay, now let's do the Green Party. 1, 2, 6, 7, 12, and then you have to double check it, and you have to trust all these people's math. And so the only way to make that work would be a computer system to count it, basically.
Well, can't you get a bunch of weights?
I was thinking about this.
Like, can't you have like a 5 pound, a 4 pound, 3 pound, or like grams, and then you just
Yes,
stick them in?
so I thought about
or like
this.
gems of different colors.
Because I was trying to think about this, right?
Yeah.
So you get a bunch of weights, you stick them in the box, you weigh the box.
Yeah.
And so behind each poll booth, there's 5 boxes, and you're given 5 weights. So the issue here is that you dump all your weights into one box.
Well,
because remember, our votes are anonymous. If our votes weren't anonymous, I think it would work.
when you have a sensor,
Yeah.
and it's like fitting the thing into the...
So all 5 have to have a weight increase.
Yeah, they have to go ping.
But then you would be able to tell what each person voted on. And I guess it could just be an on or off like thing.
Yeah.
But then you stick a pebble in each, and then you dump a handful in the one thing.
So these rocks are getting very advanced.
Yeah.
So the rocks have sensors in them.
Yeah.
And you have your like sets of rocks.
Right. Oh, and the rocks cannot. They form
Once you
groups.
Well, once you put a rock through, like, so you walk up to the thing, you stand there, and the pressure plate activates, and so the slots open up. And once you put a rock through, it closes.
So so the rocks all emit an RF signal, right?
Yeah.
And each rocks in groups of 5 are given the exact same RF signal, and each box is counted in a separate room. And if there is the same number of rocks in a box, if there's the same signal of rocks in a box, they are disqualified.
Yeah, you whatever your vote.
Yeah. Except then you could still not vote for people by dumping them all in one box and except one, and then everyone is a 0 and one person's like a 1. It would be very... There might be a way.
Well, my thought, you just have a sensor, so when you flick a rock through, it goes kerchunk.
Okay, so here's a question. Why don't we weigh ballot boxes now?
Because it's a little bit inaccurate, because it's a piece of paper. And...
Right, but why don't we give everyone a pebble and say, okay, just stick it in the ballot box and weigh the ballot box?
I don't know, actually.
I think because it would be too easy to just like slip an extra rock in or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Because you think it would be way faster, but it'd be probably easier to... Now, the United States could possibly do this because they have electronic voting.
Yeah.
But electronic voting has massive issues. Canadian voting is actually fairly secure. We've got a lot of fail-safes, and we don't have electronic voting. So electronic voting, you think, oh, that's pretty secure. It's like, yeah, it is. It's probably more secure than paper voting in a lot of ways. But if you manage to compromise a voting booth with paper voting, you can fake 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
If you can compromise an electric booth with electronic voting, you can choose who wins and who loses an election.
Yeah.
Because you can put any number in you want. So, like you have control of the whole system. It's a much you get more bang for your buck if you crack it.
Yeah.
It's like Linux versus Apple. Apples have amazing antiviral security, but if you break it, you have access to every Apple phone and every Apple computer out there. Whereas Linux, fairly easy to crack, but everyone has a different version of Linux, so your virus probably only works on like 3 computers anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Bloody Linux.
So there's benefits and downsides to that. Okay, so society has...
Do you think operating systems are going to last?
Well, I think that Romney should be eating his hat right now because I said like a year ago that we were going to have operating systems that were just AIs that were images, right? And you just click on the image and he's like, that's impossible. And now look. Yeah. Now look where we are. It's looking closer. I think for precision, operating systems will still exist because AIs hallucinate a lot. And operating systems tend to... Because we want them to do exactly what we tell them to do. So I think for now, they'll exist for a while. Mm. And people will still want to play like retro games and stuff. Yeah. I think. It's kind of interesting. Like, I tell it, make Heroes of Might and Magic 3, but...
Everyone's pirates.
But better.
We said the same thing.
Yeah, and
Can you imagine like the black dragon is a little pirate hat?
it does it. Like it's so good. It has an objective measure of better, and it makes a better Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and spits it out. And then you've essentially replaced Heroes of Might and Magic 3, right?
Yeah.
Now the question is, can you have an objective version of this?
Well, we'll figure it out. If it can make a better version of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, it'll do something that no one else has done.
Yeah. I think, or even you could say, like, give me Legend of Zelda, but make it more like the Breath of the Wild demo.
Yeah.
And
Or you could say, all right, take Tears of the Kingdom. Let's say it's out at this point, but recreate it to look and feel like Ocarina of Time.
yeah,
I don't know why you would do that, because Breath of the Wild is better than Ocarina of Time, but maybe there's some people who disagree.
yeah. So, or you could say, remake Heroes of Might and Magic 3. That's it. You don't have to say make it better. And then I guess the limitations might be what you like for the retro gaming, because you could say,
well, there's also just going to be people who, I don't know if I'd call dogma or not, but they'll just go, well, the retro is better.
yeah. But you could say make a game that's identical to Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
Yeah.
Your computer suddenly has way more space on it because you don't have to have a bunch of games. You just type in the game you want and boop, there it is. But the problem is you're playing Heroes of Might and Magic 3 new version, and you say, I want add Cove. And so it adds Cove for you mid-game. Just poop, there's Cove. And then you're like, oh, cool. Can you add a third upgrade to every unit as well? It's like, boom, there you go. And you're like, can you add 20 new spells? Like, boom, there you go. And so you're playing along. And I think some people will find that they don't like that because there is that choice paralysis. I can make this game do anything, whereas the game itself.
Yeah.
So you could say, okay, lock down for each game.
Yeah.
But even then, we talked about this before, I think, about choice, where the more choices you have, the more unhappy you are.
Yeah.
And the AI will give you so many choices that humanity might have to finally realize that the only way to be happy is to have the yearbook and the dartboard and throw the dart and marry that girl.
Well, you say that. However, there is an AI that a dating app is using right now. And it's done some interesting things. Because they basically told the AI, optimize our dating app. And it's not optimize it so we make money. It's so people have the most matches possible.
Yeah.
So what it did is it stripped all pictures from the dating app. So you can't see people anymore. Because that's actually a huge factor.
Yeah.
Of both men seeing women and women seeing men. It stripped out of that. Then, and people have used this and it's been really effective. You enter basic information in. And the research data and the AI knows the more you text to each other and talking, the less likely you two are to meet up and go on a date.
Yeah.
So basically, its optimization is you give it your information and you chat with the AI a little bit. And then it finds a person that matches to you as best as possible and basically tells the two of you, go on a date.
So the only improvement I think I'd make to that would be the moment you get a match and it tells you go on a date, it deletes both your accounts. Because the problem is you go on that date and you're like, wow, this was really nice. But what if the AI chooses someone that's better?
Yeah.
Because I think...
But what I described, that's not like... I might have gone some detail wrong, but there's basically an AI that's doing that right now, dating-wise.
But I think it needs to delete your profile as well, because it's so choice... A lot of people are talking about with AI that humans need struggle, and AI is going to remove all struggle, and that's going to make our lives bad. So maybe we need to leave in some struggle. And I think I get what they're saying, but I think they're phrasing it wrong, because there is no point in suffering needlessly. We shouldn't throw away the things that we have that are useful to not suffer, right?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, you tell the AI, like, you have the most powerful AI, and it loves people for whatever reason. And it's like, is the ideal future of this. And it says, like, make humanity better. And so it does all these insane things, then it 3D prints a Cow Ninetail out for you.
Yeah.
So you can self-flagellate.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I had an argument with Sitch about this a little bit from the Sitch and Adams show. I was just like chatting, and he was responding on live. Because I think there's an aspect of humanity that people are ignoring, which is the beauty in motion. So I can enjoy playing a game of chess with you,
Yeah.
even though Magnus Carlsen exists.
Yeah.
Which means that the goal isn't to be the best chess player on earth. The goal isn't... So with food, you can say, well, if we have no struggle to get food, then we'll be listless. And it's like, no, if I enjoy hunting and farming, then I will hunt and farm.
Yes.
If I enjoy writing and drawing, then I will write and draw, even if the AI is making things 10 times better and I can't sell this for anything.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is... I don't think the righteous struggle will ever go away, because the righteous struggle is what you choose to do with your life, not your attempt to become the best in the world. It's not about achievement, because Sitch was arguing that video games, the only reason people like them is because they give you a false sense of achievement. And I was arguing, no, they are like dance or playing music. There's a beauty in motion.
I swear, a lot of people, I mean, maybe it's approach their life and they see video games like that, but it's like, I have never had that with a video game, I don't think. Like, it's fun. No, I've had with one video game, and that's Dota. And that's because it's a competitive game, and I want to get better at. But a lot of times games, I play it to play it.
But he would argue everything you're doing, you want that feeling of accomplishment of beating the game or getting the next bit of story or getting the better gear or getting the better item.
But then what's Minecraft? Is it building the next house?
He said you set the goal for yourself and then you go out and you accomplish that and you feel accomplished about that, which I thought was kind of a cop-out answer because I mentioned Minecraft. And the interesting thing was he said, what are these imaginary games you're talking about that are examples of ludic play instead of epistemic play? And so I said Minecraft, RimWorld, Outer Wilds, Kenshi, Dwarf Fortress, Age of Wonders, all these games that storytelling games, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I don't recognize any of these games except Minecraft. And so I replied, he didn't respond to this one, but I replied, if you don't understand any of these games, why are you talking about the psychology of video games?
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. I put a comment on the video where I thought it was interesting how you have no idea what the qualifications of the person you're talking to in a conversation are unless you know each other quite well.
Yeah.
For example, Sitch only plays a couple of video games. He seems to be mostly play Sony cinematic games. And that's really going to influence your view on video games.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of games. I play from all stretches of time. I've played most historical games.
I've played the first video game.
I haven't.
I have.
Oh, you've played Tennis for Two?
Okay, I played the second video game. I played Pong.
Okay. Yeah.
Tennis for Two is very hard to play.
I don't know. I'll look it up sometime. But
and I've played Pong on a Pong machine with the dials.
Oh, wow. X's and O's was actually made before Tennis for Two as well.
Yeah.
But and the dial Pong game was actually a later version of Pong.
It was, but still, it's very weird with the dials.
Yeah. It was a very early one, though. And I've done psychology in school. And one of my main hobbies is researching and learning about the psychology of play and the psychology of game design and how game design and psychology relate. Like, for example, when I brought up ludic versus epistemic play, Sitch had no idea what I was talking about. And then there's Rosewater's like 12 types of play, and there's the psychologists came up with like 8 types of play back in the day.
I mean, I do these martial arts. I basically teach martial arts at this point. And that's play to me. I mean, I kind of get better at the martial arts, but that's not the entire reason to do it. It's also just to...
So the way Sitch looks at the world is that everything is through an evolutionary lens. So what is the evolutionary reason for a person doing this? What is the evolutionary reason for a person doing that? And my response to that was, where is the room for God in art? Where does God come into art? Where does meaning come into art? Like a deep oneness with the universe. If you took the Mona Lisa and you broke it down into all its molecules, show me the art molecule.
Okay, death.
What? Oh, he had a speech like that, didn't he?
That's the exact speech of Death talking about meaning, and it's like but Death is on the other side because he's from the perspective of
it doesn't exist at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like break down this thing into nothing but dust.
I didn't think of that at all. Totally independent.
Only is there meaning? Is there love? Is there truth?
But so my point is that there's not any. But when you put it all together, there is.
Well, that's what Death says as well.
Yeah.
No, actually, sorry, it is the same point. Yeah, you're right, because Death says that as well.
The sun won't rise in the morning. Yeah. That's the Hogfather, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Wow, that's funny. I don't think I was talking about that at all when I was saying that, but that's interesting.
Well, you've read the book and you watched the movie.
So I'm sure it has some influence somewhere deep inside. And then the other thing is these evolutionary... A lot of people do this where they look at the world through an evolutionary lens and say, this explains this because when we were cavemen struggling to survive, we did this. Or when we were cavemen struggling to survive, we did this, right? And the huge issue there is we have no idea why the cavemen were doing what they were doing. We have no idea if the cavemen existed. And we don't actually know our own past. We just have a best guess.
Yeah.
So you can't actually... Human behavior isn't deterministic. And even if it was, we have no idea what the start point is.
Yeah. And evolution is really weird. So basing stuff off evolution is also a weird idea. Because there's fish that have like suckers on the bottom of their body.
Well...
They look bizarre.
Evolution isn't at a human level anyways.
Yeah, it's accidental.
Well, that's not what I mean. It's... This was Richard Dawkins' whole point in the book, The Selfish Gene. Evolution isn't to propagate a species, it's to propagate genes. Yeah. So if a gene survives better by giving you a horrible limp, that means you'll get eaten by lions half the time. But every time you get bit by lions, spores fly out and that gene can connect with lions. So you're essentially half virus, half human. Then the gene will do that.
Yeah.
That's better way for it to survive because self-replicating machines, the goal is to self-replicate, but the replication is on the level of the thing, of the machine, not of the greater being it creates.
Yeah.
So the gene is trying to survive, the species isn't. And that means you can't infer much about it there. And then there's this other aspect where this is a fairly new development in evolution. So we know so little about evolution, right? But
epigenetics?
Maybe. It's the idea that we actually seem to have a massive amount of latent DNA that only activates under certain situations.
That's epigenetics.
So we can appear to evolve at like 1,000 times the rate overnight, when it's actually just, we are actually way more adaptable than we think.
Yeah.
And so the most obvious case you can see with this is there's plants that they grow by the water, and if one of their leaves is in the water, like they're growing and their leaf is half in the water, half out, half the leaf will be a water leaf and half the leaf will be an air leaf.
Yeah, that's a very awesome one. If you want one for humans, it's actually temperature regulation, which is you can take a person who lives in the UK. So I think that's almost the most balanced weather-wise you can get.
Yeah, it's one of the more stable there is.
Yeah, but also for humans.
Yeah.
So you take them and...
Well, it's pretty depressing.
Yeah, but I mean, it sits around 12 degrees.
Yeah.
So you take that person and you drop them into Alaska.
Yeah.
And northern Alaska, like Resolute. So...
That's in NWT. But...
Okay.
Yeah, anyways.
You drop them far north.
I just remembered one of the rules from How to Win Friends and Influence People is don't quibble over minor details.
Yeah. Yeah, you drop them far...
So I apologize.
Okay. You drop them far, far north.
Yeah. Or south.
We're going with north. They're not going to do all that well, actually. Like, they're going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
However, if they purposely go out into the cold, this is a study done on purpose freezing yourself. It's really interesting stuff. They purposely go out into the cold, and they just, like, spend... as long as you can safely spend the cold, then they go and warm up. And they do this over and over again while they're in the northern area. They are going to actually, their breathing is going to change, their body temperature regulation is going to change, how they sweat is going to change.
Is that specific example epigenetics, or is that more of a psychological something?
It's a mix.
Okay, because I thought epigenetics was more, their kid will be more cold resistant.
No, epigenetics changes people.
Yeah, but I thought it was more like you have activated these useful genes and your kid will now start with them activated.
Yeah, their kid will start with them, but they also activate in you. Epigenetics happens in the people.
So we're very adaptable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then you take that person and you drop them in the Sahara. They'll start, again, sweating differently, so the mental thing will happen, and their epigenetics will change them.
So Lamarck was right.
Yes.
Sort of. He thought it was all about attempting to do something.
Yeah, so your genetics will change, and then your kids will have those preset.
Right. So Lamarck was wrong because your kid will have them preset, but their kid won't be even more cold resistant.
No.
It's on or off.
Yeah.
So Lamarck would have said each subsequent kid will be more and more cold resistant.
Yeah.
But it's just they will have the gene activated or not.
Yes.
Yeah. And eventually they will become more cold resistant, but it won't be because they were striving towards cold resistance. It'll be because,
Well,
potential problem.
well, the thing, I mean, maybe if you're living in that area, being cold resistant works for you because everyone's dying because they're not cold resistant.
But Lamarck, I think, intent was part of his thing, I think.
Well, again, we're not even starting on epigenetics because it is activated by psychology and hormones. I remember we were talking about epigenetics in my biology class. And one of the studies they were doing on epigenetics was literally people doing the I think I can. However, are you thinking I can hard enough? And you have to study it across a very long time because you get the far more observation in children with epigenetics. It just starts with the parent.
So another thing Sitch believes, I think it's related, is that gender dysphoria can't be cured. And why he thinks that is, he thinks that anyone that gets over gender dysphoria didn't have it. They thought they had it. So he thinks essentially you either have a physical thing in your brain that is wrong, and you have gender dysphoria, or you have a mental problem that you think is gender dysphoria, and that can be cured.
Okay, so my friend that I was talking about earlier, he is a bleeder that has that disease.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember what it's called. But we were talking about, it's actually related to his field of study.
Hemophilia.
Hemophilia is a part of the category of autoimmune diseases. And so basically in his genetics, in his blood hemoglobin and in his liver, his cells, basically the gene, the sequence is a protein. It basically tells your blood to clot.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
That's why he bleeds. So we were talking about this, and he was saying, basically, if you use CRISPR in his liver, he could modify his liver so when it filters the blood through, all of the hemoglobin and blood that goes through basically starts replicating itself so it has that proper protein. And so you stick that in his liver, and as the liver runs the function, and it changes all the blood in his body. Now his blood has that, and when his blood multiplies, it knows to multiply with that because things multiply with what they have.
Right. So can he do like a blood transfusion?
It's a little more finicky than that. Hypothetically, you could, but it'd probably kill a person.
Right.
That's like the same. You could probably do that with sickle cell anemia. You could probably do a blood transfer. It's a little more finicky than that, and there's other factors. Probably we were just talking about this very simply. So he's saying you can basically just add that gene in with CRISPR. Same thing with diabetic people.
Yeah.
Is you can go on there
and increase or decrease insulin production.
Yeah, so you can go make insulin. And then I explained my situation to him, and he's saying, with the autoimmune disease, and he's saying that's not the field that I studied, but we learned a little bit about allergies.
Yeah.
And that's far more complicated.
But allergies are also really weird because they're activated.
Yeah. But he's saying allergies are far more complicated, and so we'd have to look at immune systems and lymphatic systems for that, because that's where they come from. And changing genetics in those would be more difficult, but it's doable, and there's people studying that anyways. It's just not my field, so we didn't talk about it as much. But if it's something physically wrong in your brain, what I'm getting at is we're trying to come up with ways to go into people and basically go, click!
Right, but we can't do that now. Yeah. So what he's saying is you cannot cure with talk therapy a mental problem in someone's brain. You cannot fix this physical deformity in a person's brain with talk therapy. Yeah. That's his belief, okay?
Yeah.
So, but you're bringing up autoimmune disease is interesting, because how you get an autoimmune disease, like an allergic one, is you have the genetic predisposition towards an autoimmune disease. But that isn't enough to make you allergic. You need to have a severe autoimmune reaction or some sort of massive stress or near-death type experience to activate it.
Trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma.
Illness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our mom and me both have gotten deadly ill in our lives, and we both have these issues, and we might not have had them beforehand.
Yeah.
And you've been through a lot of stress, and I don't know. There's...
I mean, I was born almost dying.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? And maybe some of these things, they start activated anyways.
Yeah.
But that is... I'm using that to illustrate the idea that a physical predisposition isn't the same thing as having the problem. And it seems like, potentially, autoimmune diseases can be put back into remission through a long enough period of gentle eating, let's say, or not activating them.
Yeah.
So you don't activate them for a year because of your diet and your health, and you're fit and you're sleeping well, and it calms down, and then you can go back to a lifestyle which is much more normal.
Yeah.
And what you can eat and what you can do is suddenly much broader. You can suddenly stay up later. You can eat more. You can eat more sugar and more nightshades and more wheat and whatnot, more pesticides, and you'll be fine because you have, well, in a lot of allergic reactions case, you've replaced the bacteria in your gut again with bacteria that you want instead. But I think that a lot of mental illness, even if it's physiological, like even if you can scan a person's brain and say, yep, there's depression, that doesn't mean they'll be depressed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's been studies on this. It'd be interesting if they scanned like 100,000 people and then they diagnosed all of them and they said, okay, let's look at just depression. And is there any people who are depressed without a physiological cause? And is there any people with the physiological cause that aren't depressed? And I'm sure there would be. And that would suggest that there's more to life than just physiology and chemistry, and that how you believe, act and think and live your life is important, and that you can get better through talk. Like that was Freud's whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been abandoned to psychiatry with like, oh, you got to have a pill for this and a pill for that and a pill for that. But a lot of times these pills don't do much more than like reduce inflammation or make you feel better, make you think you're feeling better anyway.
Yeah, or they change the amount of hormones going through your brain.
Yeah. And also, I think, and I don't know about this, so I don't know if I have a basis for this, but I think that your mental state I do know this because of stress. Your mental state can cause physiological changes on your body. What?
You see this in my beard?
Oh, like patchiness or something?
Yeah, there's a gap right there. That doesn't exist. That appeared from stress. My hair is falling out from stress.
Right. So I think that you can cause physiological changes through your mental state, which means, and you'd have to do a follow-up scan with this potentially. If you can say, okay, this person has gender dysphoria because they've got this thing in their brain right here. Yeah. Let's do the talk therapy and cure them. And we have to try that first, which we can't do, but let's say we can. Or we change their diet, whatever it takes. Then we scan them again and maybe it goes away.
Yeah.
Because you can get cancer, right? Your cells aren't stable. Your body can change. You're not the same person you were 8 years ago. I think
stress increases the chance of cancer.
And
if you're in California and you're stressed, you'll get slapped with a warning label.
I don't remember who said it, but it was humans aren't squishy robots.
No.
We are unbelievably complex things. Like all living creatures are. Unbelievably complex things. And there's so much more to us than just the chemicals that make us up. And we don't know what it all is. And like I said last time, it could even be that brains are an anchor point for galaxies that are minds that, like, we don't know what consciousness is. Consciousness could be a biological phenomenon, or it could be a supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah. And
we don't really have an answer either way. And
consciousness could just be hitchhiking.
Yeah. Yeah, well, or it could be, you've got a piece of paper and you stick a brass tack through it, and the head of the tack is your reality of being, your oneness and your wholeness. And the little pin that you see on the other side, that's connected to the air on the other side, which is your body, and that little pin is the consciousness.
Yeah.
Or is, yeah, and so it's, your brain is part of a multidimensional being who's rotated out of sync with the rest of their being, and they've phased through with like a three-dimensional being on Earth.
Yeah.
I guess would be another way to look at it.
Ergo, I said hitchhiking.
Yeah, like hitchhiking, yeah. But it could be more piercing or intercepting. Like that it might not be hitchhiking. It might be that is that thing.
Yeah.
But it is also, it could be an invader into the dimension.
Yeah.
But it's like you could be the finger of a great being.
Yeah.
So you're not hitchhiking unless you're saying you're hitchhiking in the dimension, I guess, potentially. So Or it could be that we're just these biological processes. But even if we are just that, and consciousness arises from that, it's such a complex, beautifully intricate system that we don't know what that entails, and we can't just say, oh, it's evolutionary because we fully understand evolution, or we fully understand nutrition, or we fully understand chemistry. It may be in 100 years' time we learn that we can shapeshift with the right meditative state or something.
Right, vibrations.
Yeah.
You sit in the center of a pyramid and get vibrated at.
Yeah, and it cures your cancer or something like that. Like, that doesn't sound impossible. Even now, like, it doesn't sound like I'm not saying you can turn into, like you're not going to be like Beast Boy, but it could be that you can restore hair loss if you calm down a little, right? Or you can maybe straighten your crooked teeth or regrow your teeth. Something like that.
Don't make me angry. I get male pattern baldness when I'm angry.
So there's something, this is one of the things I'm really excited for with AI, actually. So I have a ganglion on both my hands, I think. But our stepdad had a cyst on his liver.
Yes.
And it was like a 10-pound cyst, I think, or something, or 10 centimeters. I don't know. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was 10 pounds and 10 centimeters across, full of water on his liver. And it happened to him 3 times. And the third time he was going to go for surgery again. And it's only supposed to ever happen once, and even that's supposed to be super rare.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to go for surgery a third time, and he was out with the dog, and the dog lunged forward, and he went flying and landed on his chest and burst the cyst as far as he could tell. And suddenly he could breathe again, and it seemed to go away. And he still has troubles breathing even now, like a year later or something since he burst it, but he's been recovering, because I guess that's quite the thing to recover from.
Yeah.
But that seemed to do a better job than all the doctors and all their surgery, fixing this 1 in a million thing that should never happen again, happening 3 times.
Yeah.
And cysts, one way that they used to be cured, and how people have them cured by accident, is you bump into a doorway, or you get slapped with a book, or like a Bible used to be the cure. You whack it with a Bible. And now
I'm thinking of like the Shaolin monk who he just pokes your body a bunch and then
so
you're fixed.
So the surgery, you have to be intubated, you have to be cut open, you have to. It's not.
It's brutal.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm getting at is we don't actually know why the things we do fix our problems, and they don't always fix our problems. And sometimes seemingly random, easy things fix our problems. And there's also people out there who are freaks of nature, who can see better than other people, or whose teeth regrow, or
They can sit in cold water for like 20 hours.
Yeah, or they have double jointed limbs or something like that. And we think, oh, these people are just genetic freaks, or but they might be just doing something different. They might, and the cures for things might be very simple, like having a dog slam you forward in just the right way to pop the cyst in a way that gets rid of it, right? You can't replicate that if you fell down 100 times, but maybe the AI can figure out, oh, you just need like 10 newtons of force at this exact angle, and bam, so you go to the doctors, right? You're like, all right, you've got bowel cancer. And what we do with bowel cancer now is we remove your bowel, and then we kind of extend your lower intestine a little bit and give it a bag sometimes or whatever, or we just straighten it out. But instead of that, it's like, all right, stand still. I'm just going to line you up with these lasers on our machine. Okay, you're 6'1". We'll set this up. Okay, so the lasers are just going to point at your skin, and they're going to tell me where to strike with this little hammer. And I'm just going to tap you 3 times.
Okay, you went to with the thought. I was just imagining you go to the doctor, like, all right, got this problem? Please stand here. And it's just a retrophrenology. Just whacks you in the head.
Yeah, well, it could be, but you have like this book of like, okay, it matters.
So medicine goes back to reflexology.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could. There's a game called, what's it called? Deus or something? It's a game where you're God, and one player is God, and all the other players are scientists. And the scientists have to figure out the rules of reality. And so you play cards, and each scientist plays cards in turn, and then God plays a card. And God always plays the pattern correctly, and the other scientists have to try to guess the pattern. And God tells them if they're right or wrong. And scientists can eventually become preachers if they think they understand God's word, and then they become the preacher for God. And they can. So I was thinking, you could make a rule set. Now this would go against the rules, but you could make a slightly simpler version. But let's say you're breaking the rules slightly here. You can make a rule, which is the rule of God is that you have to play cards in numerical order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Except if you know the rule, you have to not play a card in numerical order. So someone plays a 2, you have to play a 5. So by knowing the rules, the rule changes. And this is, this is already established in physics that this is a reality.
Yeah.
The measurement paradox. By measuring something, you change its nature. So if the universe could be set up that if you are observing something or you understand something, it is no longer possible. Which is to say, I remember I watched, they scientifically investigated a bunch of these dowsers.
Yeah.
They can find water,
yeah.
find gold. And so most of them were saying, oh, no, the setup's not wrong, or I'm not feeling right, or, oh, no, you can't just do this. But the one guy, he had a great answer where he said, it's not going to work under these conditions. You can't observe it. And it's like, you can't disprove him.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it only works if everyone's believing in it. And if there is processes like that, there's not much you can do about it.
So you're saying it's WOG?
What's that?
Orc magic?
Oh, yeah.
Or EK?
You have to believe. Yeah. Or if you do believe it doesn't work, so you have to there's all sorts of possibilities. Or, for example, with the phrenology, it could be that it's like dragon poker, where if it's a Tuesday and it's raining and you're wearing one sock, then you need to be tapped in your nose. But if you're wearing 2 socks on a Wednesday and it's sunny, then you need to be tapped above your eye socket, but only if your cranial length is 3 centimeters. It could be so immensely complicated. But the cures for... And this is the kind of thing that AI is perfect for solving.
Yeah.
You give it all the data about every medical situation ever. You feed it all the phrenology data of every patient, and you feed it all their outcomes. And it says... No way, it wasn't the chemo that fixed them. It was the fact that they were lying down in the chemo machine and they had black skin and they were 27 years old. It's like, that's what solved it. It's like, if they had white skin, obviously, then you can deduce that you would need to put them upside down in the chemo machine. It's like, do you need to turn it on? Well, you need the sound of it turning it on, but the lasers are useless.
Yeah.
It could potentially start doing stuff like that. And I think stuff like that will start happening. And it won't be that extreme, probably. But it will be stuff like, okay, this is how you cure ganglion. Because right now we don't really have cures for ganglion. We have surgery, which doesn't always work.
Because don't they just kind of grow back?
Yeah, they can. They don't necessarily. And it's also like, even if they don't grow back, which I think it's actually fairly rare, but because we don't know what caused them in the first place, that's why they could grow back, right? Yeah. But the issue with surgery a lot of time is the surgery has to be so invasive for something that is so minor. You might never regain the functionality that you had for this tiny little thing.
Yeah.
And so one thing the doctor tried to do with my ganglion is he stuck a needle in it and tried to suck out the extra fluid.
Yeah.
But they're quite viscous a lot of times, so he couldn't. Yeah. Because I guess they're I don't know what they're not fat. They're like nerve bundles. I don't know what liquid's in there. Spinal fluid? I don't know.
There's weird things.
Yeah. I was reading about Seth made me look it up. I was watching his video and he talked about an oil drill that had an accident. And so I looked it up and there was 2 incidences on that oil drill at least. The one he wasn't talking about kind of stuck with me because a guy decompressed so rapidly that the fat in his body denatured in such a way that it fell through his flesh, like it wasn't connected anymore, and it congealed in his veins, and so all his blood bonded with fat. A similar thing you can see, like...
Sorry, that sounds like a sci-fi weapon, like you point at this person and it goes whomp, and then they're just...
Well, dead. That's the thing, like, physics is very anti-common sense at a certain level. Like, you have 2 iron bars in a vacuum, and you can stick them together and they'll stay stuck together, because iron doesn't have a beginning and an end. It's just... There's gaps. Yeah. And if there's no gaps, you can just fuse it together without any heat or tools or anything.
They also have to be pure iron. There can't be impurities.
Yeah, and they have to be flesh enough that But just iron, boom. And I don't know if that's true of everything. Like, most things have a more natural barrier than metal. But it could be that if...
Well, you can flatten wood through a process, like compress it basically, to the point where it is lighter and stronger than metal, and serves a function of basically becoming... metal plating that is metal plating better than metal plating.
There was a new type of ice discovered recently. They had a bunch of metal tumblers and they stuck it in a thing of water and they had them spin around constantly, and they made it colder and colder and colder, and they got it to like minus 70 or something, but the tumblers were keeping it liquid because they were crushing the ice before it could form, basically. And once it got to minus like 70 something, it finally froze in a completely different crystalline structure. It was ice that was denser than water, I think. So ice is normally much lighter than water. It's about 10 to 1. So you need 10 pounds of ice to get a pound of... Well, no. Weight-wise, it wouldn't work. But you need 10 volumes. What's a volume? Liters. You need 10 liters of ice to get 1 liter of water.
Yeah.
But this was 1 to 1 or something like that. And ice actually has dozens of different forms. And I didn't know that. There's all sorts of different chemical structures to ice. And that's just a single molecular structure.
Yeah.
And you think, well, water's water, right? It's like, no. There's so many different kinds of water. So that's the crazy thing about discoveries, right? It's like, we know everything now. We've got the periodic table. And then someone says, hey, I combined bronze and iron while I was hanging upside down, and suddenly I got this super light metal. It's like, that sort of stuff still happens.
Yeah.
Because we know all the elements, but we don't know what happens when you do stuff to them. And that's another thing AI might figure out. Maybe they'll figure out there's actually a pattern to combinations. They'll be like, oh yeah, this will happen if you do this, and this will happen if you do this. Because we know the chemical result. We can, like, that's something to do in high school. You say this plus this gives you this outcome. But we don't actually know, okay, what if it was this hot? Or what if it was high magnetic field?
Well, I had this great case we were doing the chemical reactions thing. So it was basically, we had a bunch of different drippers. And you take a dripper of a chemical, you put in another. And the goal was basically, we had this sheet that said, try to get all these colors. So we had like 3 different colors, and then to try to get these 3 reactions and try to get like to bubble away. So that was our sheet, and we're just like combine them randomly. So, and every once in a while someone would ask the teacher, is it this one there? I was like, oh yeah, you got that combination, what did you put together? So I put a drop of something in, another drop, and I got 2 colors. Then I combined those 2 things, got something, and then I combined something else, and I got this really weird green color. And I asked the teacher, what's this? And the teacher looked down, like, this person was way too overqualified to be like teaching high school kids chemistry in some ways. And she looked down and was like, I have no idea what you've made there.
Yeah.
And before the class, she told everyone, every result you have here, I know what it's going to do, everything's safe. It's like, I have no idea what you've made there. And so she was just looking at, and then someone else dumped their chemical mist into the sink, which she told us not to do, and it caught fire. And she's just, that's also not possible, because she was very careful to select the chemicals. Like, nothing we had there should have reacted to catch fire, but they just dumped their petri dish and like caught fire.
There's this was on Lex Friedman recently. There's something called the bottle trick, where you can like hold a bottle in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So that it's like, put the base in your palm and so it's standing up, and then rotate the bottle 360 degrees. So your arm's like twisted behind you, right? Your arm's twisted as far as it can go, and the bottle's gone 360 degrees.
Yeah.
And then, without changing direction of rotation, you can still twist the bottle another 360 degrees.
Yeah.
And what happens is not that your arm breaks. It actually returns to its original position. But the bottle has rotated twice.
Yeah.
And there are objects like
quarks,
I think, which actually rotate 720 degrees or something like that.
Yeah.
And they get to a new state each point along that rotation. Yeah. And USBs as well. You have to rotate those a couple times to get them to fit in.
It might actually be the case that USBs do that.
Yeah, so...
And when you observe them, they don't.
There's some... Or how about this really simple one? So there's some... What I was getting at is, there could be, or maybe there is, chemical reactions where you add A to B and you get C.
Yeah.
But then if you add A to B again, you suddenly get D. And you're like, what? Because if you do it twice, you get a different result than if you do it once.
Yeah.
Or there's one that I can actually back up, which is if you add water to acid, you get thin acid. If you add acid to water, it explodes. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And so there's these reactions that you can... I really hope I got that the right way around. Yeah. Don't trust me on that if you're about to do something with acid. But there's these reactions that order of operations matters, how many times you do it matters, how much it's rotated matters, and we can't...
Probably what temperature is that might matter.
We can't actually... Science can give us an answer to a question, but it doesn't tell us what questions to ask or...
Yeah.
Like if we say, okay, what happens if I do this? Science can say, you'll get this. But it doesn't say, how do I get this?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't. Okay, so I know the results of combining these two things without having ever done it because of science. But it's, okay, I want a material that lets air through but not water. It's like, well, science can't help you with that. You can make it potentially, and what can even happen is someone can say, could you get that from A plus B? You could do the science and you could say, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Without ever having tested it. but you don't actually. This is the same thing as it's much easier to test a proof than to make a proof. It's the exact same thing. And so I really think that Sitch and people like him, you cannot reduce the world to, oh, we understand this. It's like, no, you can say A plus B equals C, but you can't reach any further than that ever.
Yeah.
It's getting actually fairly late. I guess we'll wrap it up there.
Yes.
All right.
you